Hello, my name is Josh Newton, and I am the founder of Josh's Water Jobs. At first, I'd like to thank SIWI. It's quite an honor to be here giving this keynote speech after all the World Water Weeks that I've been to over the years. It's really, truly an honor to be able to share my thoughts on the issue I'm going to talk about today, which is water and jobs and water careers. As many of you know, this is a very important subject to me for the past 10 years through the website and through my listserv. It's been a wonderful journey, and it's for me. There's nothing better than hearing that somebody got a job because of the platform, and it's very satisfying. And so I really like the fact that it gives access to people, to jobs, to people and opportunities that normally wouldn't have that access, and that it provides hope that there are opportunities out there and connecting those opportunities with the people who are searching for them. So a little bit about my presentation here today is I'll tell a little bit about my own story and how I got to be where I am, and then why water and why jobs in the nexus of them. And then a little bit about what the space of water and jobs looks like today, what skills are needed for today and tomorrow, and then a little bit on the how to get a job, the advice I have to young professionals and senior professionals in terms of looking for their next jobs. So how I got into water, I was an intern at a geographic institute in Mendoza, Argentina. And I was working on environmental conservation, but really didn't know what I wanted to focus on for a project. And this is some over 20 years ago. And my advisor suggested that I look at this aqueduct project that the city wanted to bring water from the local river to the Piedmont area in order to urbanize it. And I was like, okay. And it ended up being truly an amazing project because of the what I loved about it was the complexity, the multidisciplinarity of it. It wasn't just about the water, it was about the politics, the economics, power relations, legal issues, and environment. And so that just fascinated me and it had me hooked. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. So the problem we have in terms of water and jobs, we have two things. One is the water problem, and most of you are water professionals who know the stats and the figures and how grave the situation is in many ways. And those who are not water professionals, we are seeing almost daily now crises, floods, droughts, emergencies around the world related to water, and this is kind of the new norm, and it's probably only going to get worse. And so there is a water crisis right now. But there's a second crisis too that is not talked about as much and quite not here yet, but will be in the future, and that there is and will be increasingly a professional gap, a human resources gap in water and sanitation. Countries already are lacking professionals in this space, and then that's again only going to get worse. And it's different for the global north and for the global south. For the global north, you have baby boomers who are about to retire. And so in some countries, including the US, where I'm from, in the next 5 to 10 years, up to 50% of the workforce in water and sanitation will be retiring, but there isn't the backfill of young professionals to fill those spots. And then the global south, it's a different issue in that those countries, many of them are still trying to achieve water security. And to make that happen, there are not enough trained professionals. And even if the issue of water and sanitation were prioritized at the highest levels, there's not enough professionals to actually make it happen. So I've been doing a little bit more work on this lately, looking at the issues and numbers, and kind of back of the napkin math is, or back of the envelope math is that in the coming decades, there'll be a shortage of at least 10 million water and sanitation professionals worldwide. And that's a kind of a low estimate, but much more work needs to be done on that going forward to see actually what those numbers are. And very much linked to that, according to the World Water Development Report in 2016 on water and jobs, 2.6 billion jobs worldwide, 78%, are at least moderately and a lot of them highly dependent on water. So what does that mean in terms of education and awareness of those jobs that depend on water, and how the people who are in those jobs view water? Also a very important issue. So the question is, how do we attract, educate, train, and retain personnel in this water space, and especially women, since that's also a very large gap? So in terms of jobs themselves, how is this, how does it look? How is it changing? What's a constant for the most part is engineers, water resources management, water supply, sanitation. They're always in demand, and that demand is rising as less people go into those fields of study. Very much linked, so that those will always be jobs in demand. I see them actually rising right now with the different issues that are occurring around the world, especially in the Western US. But very much linked to that as well is technology, and data is, one of the solutions to address water issues. And so there's more and more jobs, still not probably where it will be, because it's growing very fast, in water related tech, water related data. WASH, which is a lot of the jobs I do have on the website, as long as there is still not universal access to water and sanitation worldwide, WASH jobs will always be in demand, especially as we try to achieve that universal access. And then there's always the issue of when conflicts arise. WASH always becomes an issue, as we can see in many parts of the world right now. An under-addressed issue that there will be many opportunities in the future as well is with wastewater. Not nearly enough. It's, I think, 20% roughly worldwide of wastewater is collected, much less treated. And so as we look to improve water security, it'll mean collecting, recycling, and reusing. And we're going to need a lot of professionals to kind of meet those demands in the future. The downside is that in many places, wastewater jobs and related have a stigma attached to them. So we have to work to overcome some of those issues. Also, say, finance, insurance, and the private sector, there's growing awareness of water risk to all of these things, all these aspects. And so there is a growing need. It's still very slow right now for companies, funding agencies, financiers to be able to look at what their water risk is in the future, and there needs to be more professionals that are linked to those and have the skill set. So along the lines of corporate water stewardship, it's still slow. It's only been past 5-10 years that's growing, but still probably not where it needs to be, and it's definitely going to grow as companies look to mitigate their water risk. So in terms of all these jobs, what skills are needed now and in the future? And I think, many people may differ on my opinion of what I see as the skills of the future. But the main thing is that there is no silver bullet skill for the water and sanitation community, because there's so many different jobs. It's linked to so many different fields and areas and they all require different things. But generally speaking, what's in demand are technical skills. It's always important. And to meet demands of the future, we're still and will always need those with technical skills. As mentioned before, data and technology, knowledge of or expertise in those areas, since they're burgeoning fields in water, will also be very good to have. And I personally am maybe it's the social scientist in me, or the fact I deal with diplomatic issues and whatnot, but I'm a big proponent of soft skills. Those are always useful. And what I always say is that, everybody, not just water professionals, but all professionals, all people, should actually be trained in negotiation, conflict resolution, because this is something you deal with on a daily basis, no matter what job you have. You deal with it in your personal life and your professional life. And so it's just really good tools to have and knowledge to have. Writing is also, I feel, still important. When I'm looking at CVs, I definitely am looking at how well a person writes. Not all jobs may require writing, but for me, what I look at when I'm hiring or on behalf of others, like writing skill is important because communications, being able to communicate is super important. And one of those methods is through writing. I still feel that program management is actually a really good skill to have. That's in demand. Most organizations, have program managers. So I think there's not enough, say, water professionals who as well have skills in program management. And to marry those skill sets together, say water knowledge and program management knowledge, is really useful and can help people get jobs. And then I can't tell you how much I've heard over the past years, those organizations that are linked to economics or finance or startups or entrepreneurialness, how the water professionals are lacking skills in economics and finance and those. And so those are real areas of demand, especially as private sector goes more into looking at what their water risk is and bottom lines and being able to communicate with private sector. Those skills are really going to be in demand. They already are in demand. And what I see is that the organizations can't find water professionals. Water organizations are, say, working on water issues around private sector entrepreneurs, can't find water professionals who are well versed in these issues. So that would be useful to have for the future. And then on languages, two sides of the language issue. One, to do international work, very important to have languages. My first job I only got because I spoke Spanish. And so the more languages you speak, the more opportunities and doors that are open to you. On the other side of language is the languages, if you will, between the different disciplines and being able to translate talk across disciplines. So a political scientist can talk to a hydrologist and et cetera. And so being able to translate and speak to different communities within the water community is really, I think, important and growing need, especially because we're moving more into a multidisciplinary world. So after all that, so how do you get a job? So many of you have probably heard some of these tips before that I've given. But this is my advice in terms of what could be helpful in making yourself a better candidate or putting yourself out there. And so back that first internship that I had back over 20 years ago, my advisor, he was the one who gave me the best advice that I ever received. And it was, those who move create their own luck. So it's really about putting yourself out there, exposing yourself to new things, to talking with people, to really move. Because if you're static, then nothing happens. But you can really create things and opportunities if you put yourself out there and you move, you get out there. So that's very much benefited me through my career. Second is that reach out for career advice. I say this a lot, and I still reach out to career advice because I find it's one of the best ways to kind of help with career trajectory, finding out what are the newest skills and whatnot that you might need. And it's about making those connections. And that's sometimes how jobs come about too. It's like, just serendipity happens where that person may be looking for someone and you all of a sudden are there asking for advice about where to move in the future. And people love to give advice. So it's not very often that someone will turn you down. So my next point is don't be afraid to ask anyone. The worst they can for advice or for anything else, because the worst they can do is say no. And so just, again, put yourself out there, talk to people. And no matter how high level they are, give it a try. Some will say no, but some will say yes. And so it's well worth the effort. Next is find a mentor or mentors. I have had many over my career, and some of them have been very short term, some of them longer term, but they're very valuable in terms of giving you advice and insight about what their process was and how that can potentially help you with your own. And I would say not only, looking mentors that are senior to you, but amongst your peers as well, because they also have a lot of good things to say and good advice to give. And that leads to my next point, which is about youth networks. This is more targeting youth, but in terms, we learn as much from our peers as we do as any other, group of people in the water community. So, utilize those networks in terms of meeting new people, building relationships. Like these are people you'll be working with for the next few decades. I know I'm still, in touch with and visit people I met at my first World Water Week, which was in 2005. And then those relationships are very important for me. And I've worked with these people as well. And so starting via these youth networks is really useful. Next point would be to stay busy, even if you're looking for a job and unemployed. Um, keep doing stuff. Keep filling your CV with different things. I several years ago had a hard time finding a job, and that's how the website was born. I had the jobs list before, but then I had the time to put into trying to make the job site happen. So it's just about always making yourself a better candidate through different means, and especially if you're unemployed and looking for a job, stay busy, because that's what opens doors. So it's volunteering, interning, writing, doing more learning, starting a website. Those things will really keep you engaged and out there in the community. And then I was be humble and be kind, because in the end, we're all in this together. It's a struggle. We're all trying to fight for a better water world. So be humble, be kind as you interact with people, because we're in this for the long term. And then last of all, my last point of this keynote is that stick with this. I know it can be hard at times to struggle to find a job, but like we need you, others need you, and so please stick with this field, this profession, because it's really important, and it'll become increasingly important as time goes by. So please stick with it. So yeah, thank you very much, and again, thanks for having me here today.